Welcome to the Franklin and Marshall College Convocation Ceremony that marks the beginning of the 2024-2025 academic year, honoring and welcoming the incoming class of students beginning their academic careers at F&M. We gather today on the homeland of Native peoples, whose history is integral to our past and present, but long denied. In addition to the Susquehannock, who lived here in the 17th century, this land was home to the Lenape, the Nanticoke, the Piscataqua, the Seneca, Haudenosaunee Confederacy, Saunee, and others throughout the millennia. We acknowledge that Franklin and Marshall College presence here is a direct legacy of settler colonialism. As a college community, we commit ourselves to the ongoing work of acknowledging and respecting those who came before us on these lands and to collectively to support Native communities. The flags within today's ceremonial academic processional and showcased here reflect our respect for and the celebration of all F&M students, both nationally and internationally. These country of citizenship flags represent the international diversity within the class of 2028 and transfer students and the importance of the global F&M community. Please rise, if you are able, for the invocation by Joseph Pritchett, Director of Faith and Meeting.
Let us first give thanks. We find space for gratitude on this busy day because you've made it to this place, gathered together with others on your journey. As we come together to usher in the academic year and embrace the hope that comes with new beginnings and new places, I ask these things for all of you. May you seek knowledge, question often, think deeply and critically. May you find a community, celebrate difference, come to know one another, and in those experiences, come to know yourself. May you know this is a place where you belong, where we all recognize our inherent human dignity. May you rise to the challenge, embracing the successes and struggles that lie ahead. Open yourselves up to the possibilities of this time and place, these experiences and people. Let us be open to what this day and every day following it might offer. Amen.
Thank you, Joe. You may be seated. Good afternoon. I'm Leslie Davidson, the Vice President for Enrollment Management, and I am absolutely thrilled to welcome you, our new students, and your families to campus today. For the past year, the enrollment team has had one goal: finding students who are a great fit for F&M and for whom F&M is a great fit. You are those students chosen from over 10,000 applicants, and it is a highlight of my year to present you to my colleagues on the faculty and staff. You hail from Brooklyn and Beijing, Mechanicsburg and Mumbai, San Francisco, Saratoga Springs and Singapore, Harrisburg, Haverford, and Hanoi. Altogether, 26 states and 27 countries. One of you traveled just over a mile to be in this room today, while a few of you spent at least 22 hours in the air, and that is not including layovers, to join us. Nearly 80 of you are the first in your families to attend college. Nearly 1/3 of you are athletes. At least 2 of you were part of graduating classes that numbered in the single digits, while 2 of you were part of graduating classes larger than this entire college. Your academic accomplishments and potential are impressive. This is F&M, after all. Your transcripts are filled with tough courses and top grades, and your recommendations are a study in superlatives. You've commuted over 3 hours a day to a school that offers the academic challenge you seek. You've received top student awards at the regional and national levels. In terms of intellectual firepower, you dazzle. And there is more to you than that. As we got to know you as applicants, we were deeply impressed by your character and your sense of purpose. We chose you because we saw in you qualities that will make a difference in the classroom, in the campus community, and in the world. You are kind. You have extended thoughtfulness and support to peers and the elderly. You have been primary caregivers for siblings and parents. Your instinct is to include, to make room at the table, to hear and learn from other voices. You have gone out of your way to ensure others are and feel safe. You are curious. You ask questions that don't occur to others. You seek out opportunities to learn beyond what's expected or required of you, and you keep your teachers after class with just one more question. You are well equipped to enlighten us on quantum paradoxes and wormholes, writing for publication, and the nuances of medical patents, to name just a few. You are purposeful. You seek to tackle big challenges, solve wicked problems, and shape the world around you in meaningful ways. You apply your talents to issues of justice and equity, food insecurity, housing, indigenous rights, climate change. You train service dogs. You defy government education bans to ensure that all citizens of your country have an opportunity to learn. You start organizations that support kids living with ALS. You design apps that expand healthcare access. You are working to make death obsolete. May you succeed in time for me. You are talented, you are kind, you are curious, and you are purposeful. You are wildly diverse in terms of identity, worldview, life experience, and interests. And yet you share a desire to immerse your whole selves in your learning, to sample broadly and delve deeply, to learn from mistakes and successes, to approach life with purpose and joy. You are diplomats. Beginning today, you and F&M become part of each other's histories. F&M will change you, and you will change it. For the time that you are here, you will co-create this community with one another, your fellow students, faculty, and staff. This community will be made so much richer by the qualities you bring to it. Is it any wonder that I am so incredibly proud to present you to my colleagues today, and to accept you, our newest diplomats, on behalf of the faculty, I am pleased to introduce my colleague, Provost Mary Osirum.
Thank you, Leslie. Good afternoon, everyone. This day represents a pivotal moment for you, your families, and all those who helped you on your journey to F&M. Now, a new journey is about to begin. The window on stage signifies the beginning of your time at F&M. Inscribed with the Franklin and Marshall College motto, Lux et Lex, which means light and law, the window is a symbol of your lifelong pursuit of knowledge and truth. Commissioned by the F&M Alumni Association, we hope that this window will be a constant reminder that you are now part of a community that seeks to learn from and with each other and to create a better world. You are diplomats forever. Members of the F&M faculty, please stand, turn, and face the class of 2028 and transfer students. As stated in the F&M College mission, F&M seeks to foster in our students qualities of intellect, creativity, and character. Together, as the F&M faculty of the college, we, the faculty, welcome and accept the class of 2028 and transfer students to Franklin and Marshall College. You may be seated. I now introduce Dr. Scott Smith, Professor of Anthropology and the 2023 recipient of the Lindback Distinguished Teaching Award. This highest faculty award for teaching is given annually to an F&M faculty member and funded by a grant from the Christian R. and Mary F. Lindback Foundation in Philadelphia.
Good afternoon. As an archaeologist, my research has taken me for extended periods of time to the Andes Mountains of Bolivia. Much of my team's work happens in very small, rural, indigenous communities that speak a language called Aymara. One day, about 20 years ago, after we had finished excavations, I was walking with my partner Maribel through one of these communities, a town called Conco, when we came to the small primary school at the edge of town. It was practically buzzing with activity and excitement. Community members were busy repairing the building, repainting the walls. They were polishing the desks and chairs. Residents streamed in through the gates, bringing pencils and notebooks and other school supplies. I spotted a friend nearby, an elderly gentleman named Primitivo Lopez, who was a widely recognized ritual leader. Curious about the dedication I was witnessing to the care of a school that had maybe 30 students in total, I asked Mr. Lopez about the school's history. His response changed the way that I think about education and the way that I think about the mission of liberal arts institutions like F&M. He explained that the school in Conco was founded in the 1920s as what he called an escuela clandestina, a clandestine school. The school was secret because indigenous communities like Conco were prohibited by the government from education, despite the fact that they constituted the clear majority of the population of Bolivia. The government schools that did exist were founded to assimilate indigenous communities to urban cultural norms. Indeed, the right to a basic education was a central pillar of indigenous rights movements in Bolivia. On March 12, 1921, with the rising sun, Aymara leaders in Conco had decided that they had had enough. Ya basta. And they led an uprising against local government representatives, in part to try to force the creation of community schools. This uprising was put down by the military in a bloody repression that led to the deaths of many residents of Conco. But the people were undeterred. They formed one of the first indigenous community schools in Bolivia. The clandestine school was intercultural and bilingual, instructing in both Spanish and Aymara. This was the school that Mr. Lopez had attended as a child. He related that at first the secret school would rotate between houses so as to avoid detection. Later, the school moved to use the church ruins in the hills above the town. Students would serve as lookouts, warning their teachers and classmates to disperse if soldiers came searching for the school. No wonder I saw so much energy, so much care, so much respect surrounding the school in Conco. Its history was the history of the community's struggle for their right to education. Their parents and grandparents had built the school by hand at tremendous personal sacrifice and risk. At that time in Bolivia, access to basic education was closely guarded by the governing elite. The ability to read and write, to navigate the legal system, these were the tools that had been used to confiscate indigenous land and to maintain positions of power. This is why Aymara communities fought so ardently to establish their own community schools. The ability to understand the law, to understand history, meant the possibility of reclaiming their land, of reclaiming their autonomy, of reclaiming their basic human rights. In establishing the clandestine school, the people of Conco took up the very tools that had been used to oppress them to fight for liberation. Mr. Lopez's story forced me to think in a new way about the power and potential of the liberal education I had received. And by liberal education, what I mean is the wide-ranging, critical, and reflexive education of the kind that you are all beginning today. Education in Conco was not something that one just stepped into. It was something that was made and remade each and every day through sheer will and determination. It was something that required devotion and care. Education was something that the entire community took ownership of, something no one took for granted. It was something that was born of the struggles of the community's past, and it was something that brought joy to the community in the present. The community of learners that you join today stretches beyond the boundaries of this campus in both space and time. It is a community dedicated to the kind of education that prepares you to be an analytical and critical thinker, to ask questions that have yet to be envisioned, to understand the social, the historical, and moral context of the problems you encounter, and to be creative and to think with originality about complex issues. It is an empowering, liberating kind of education. It's one that cultivates the habits of mind that will serve you well throughout your lives. Class of 2028, I urge you to draw inspiration from the history of that small school in Conco, as I did. It is a great achievement to be accepted to F&M. Now you must build your education like the community of Conco built that school, brick by brick, lesson by lesson, every single day, with focus, with determination, and above all, with joy. Welcome to Franklin and Marshall College. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Smith, and welcome, class of 2028 and transfer students, families, friends, faculty,
and members of the F&M elite. My name is Drew Stelgis, and I serve as the Vice President for Student Affairs. It is my pleasure to welcome our newest diplomats on behalf of the Office of Student Affairs at F&M. The 2024-25 academic year marks the 20th year of the College House residential model and the full engagement of the student-run house governments. Today, at Convocation, students sit with members of their college houses to emphasize the important role these residential communities will play in your intellectual, extracurricular, and social engagement experiences. During the next few days, as part of your orientation weekend, key individuals, including your College House Don and Dean, House government leaders, and housing assistants, will play a vital role in introducing you to the college's mission and expectations, and encouraging you to build a strong sense of collective identity within your college house and entering class. I urge you to welcome vulnerability and openness during this period, foster interpersonal connections, and actively engage in the activities. Approach the upcoming days with a shared attitude of learning, observing, experiencing, and a deeper understanding of acceptance and inclusion. Your college house is just one of the many opportunities that will shape your experience throughout this semester here at F&M. Beyond this weekend, you'll have many opportunities to learn more about campus life. Next week, the Involvement Fair will allow you to explore clubs, activities, and organizations on campus. Try something new or continue what you enjoy. This year and the next 4 years at F&M are about you. This is an exciting part of this ceremony. At this time, I'd like to recognize the F&M College Houses and their leadership by asking the College House Don, Dean, House Government Leader, and Housing Assistants to please stand when your name is introduced. After the leadership introduction, I encourage members of the College Houses to cheer loud and proud for your college house. I have to tell you, having done this last year, it was loud in here, it was proud, and I want you to beat the class of 2027. Are we ready? So I invite the leaders of Brooks to please rise. Alexis Castor, Brooks College House Don, Professor of Classics. Jacqueline Klinger, Brooks College House Dean and Assistant Dean of Student Affairs. And Juliette Jerome, Brooks College House Congress President. And all of our Brooks Housing Assistants. That was good, that was good. Now will the class of 2028 and transfer students in Brooks College House, all of you stand and celebrate your affinity. Welcome, Brooks College House. You may be seated. You are our first to go. You did fine. I'm looking forward to the next 4. Boncheck, I now invite the leaders of Boncheck to please rise. We have Christine Pirro, Boncheck College House Don and Associate Professor of Chemistry. Beth Profit, Boncheck College House Dean and Assistant Dean of Student Affairs. And Brandon Helwig, Boncheck College House Congress Chancellor. And all of our Boncheck Housing Assistants, will everyone in Boncheck House please rise? Please stand and celebrate your affinity. Welcome, Boncheck College House. You may be seated. All right, next up is Rochelle. I'm just giving you a little warning. You ready, Rochelle? I invite the leaders of Rochelle to please rise. Jorge Mena Ali, Rochelle College House Don. Courtney Jordan Cox, Rochelle College House Dean. And Kenya Twyman, Rochelle College House Senate Council. And all the HAs, please rise. And now, will everyone in the Rochelle College House please rise? Thank you, Rochelle College House. You may be seated. We've got 2 more. These are going to be good. I can tell already Weiss is next. I invite the leaders of Weiss College House to please rise. Dorothy Merritt's our Weiss College Don and Professor of Geosciences. Jennifer Nell, our Weiss College House Dean and Assistant Dean of Student Affairs. And Eddie Henry, our Weiss College House Assembly of Peers Chair, and all of our housing assistants. And now will the class of 2028 and transfer students of Weiss College House please rise and be loud. Thank you, Weiss College House. You may be seated. All right, there's a lot of competition in these 5 groups, and we've got one more. And the next one is Ware. The final one is Ware College House. I invite the leaders of Ware to please rise. Ashley Rondini, Ware College House Don, and Associate Professor of Sociology. Shuai Shao, Ware College House Dean and Assistant Dean of Student Affairs. And Caroline Regal, Ware College House Parliament Prime Minister. All of our housing assistants and all of the members of Ware class of 2028 and transfer students, please rise. Congratulations, Ware College House. You may be seated. Parents, families, you can decide who gets the grand prize. Each of the 5 groups did well, and in an era where we don't grade that much, I would say that everybody gets the grand prize. Welcome. Welcome to everyone. Your college house embodies the liberal arts principle of residing and learning in a communal setting. We are deeply proud of the college house system. Relationships matter here. The strong sense of camaraderie within your house is unparalleled, fostering enduring friendships and introducing you to a diverse range of individuals. Being a member of your college house means being a part of a tight-knit community and contributing to something greater than yourself. And rather than hearing from me talk about the impact of this experience, let's hear it from a current student. It is my pleasure to introduce the President of the Student Body and Diplomatic Congress, a member of the class of 2025, Michael Vasquez, as he warmly welcomes and greets the class of 2028 and transfer students. Please join me in welcoming Michael to the stage.
Thank you, Dr. Drew Stelgis, and hello, class of 2028 and transfer students. What an honor it is to speak to all of you, not just as student body president, but from one student to another about the long-lasting memories you will make in this school and this beautiful city, and what being here all adds up to be. I first connected to F&M only about 3.5 years ago on Zoom, getting to know 9 other students who would become my posse. Sharma Nunez, the lovely senior class president, yes, is a member of said phenomenal posse group. Professor Stephen Cooper, our mentor, hosted weekly meetings where we faced how our identities and pasts affected our sense of belonging at F&M. Here I shared how being multi-ethnic with a mom from Indonesia and a dad from Puerto Rico, and me not knowing either language fully, I never fully felt quite Asian or Hispanic enough. Being queer and trans, I questioned if I was ever masculine enough or just passing enough because of my body or my clothes, and I was always floating between meeting other people's expectations and feeling punished if I didn't know it all. When I think of belonging, it never crossed my mind before F&M, but it was always present. In high school, I was fortunate enough to have accepted friends who saw me as I was, whether I was dressing up emo one day or a flannel and a beanie the next. I had huge identity crisis, yeah. The same held true at F&M. My first steps on campus led me to the Ware Institute for Civic Engagement's pre-orientation program. Despite some initial hiccups, the kind words from Jen Nell, who is now Weiss College House's dean, made me feel at ease. She reassured me with a simple, "Michael, no problem. You're gonna do great. It's a pleasure to have you here." And whether sweaty after my pre-orientation days or dressed up in a suit for a professional meeting, I still belonged. Again, I felt a sense of belonging when I entered my first House government meeting. As a first year, I entered an unfamiliar landscape of event planning and speaking openly and spontaneously about my thoughts on our plans in the Weiss House Assembly of Peers House government. Even through the not fully thought out ideas I blurted out and the icebreakers I took awkwardly way too long to answer, I was met with open and unjudged spirits from my upperclassmen executive board. And now our incredible Eddie Henry has continued this legacy of inclusion. I felt this in my Connections course, Social Activism, led by Professor Leanne Roncolato. One of the icebreakers, we were tasked with naming out loud in front of the whole class 3 identity labels for ourselves that we found important to us. And that was the first time that I had told that many people in one space, and a group of people I barely knew, by the way, that I was queer. And this moment right now, it just topped that, so congratulations. Thank you. Yes. Wow. Look at us. Look at us. But in all seriousness, to turn it back, for you, class of 2028 and transfer students, this might happen in your dorm room where you and your friends are staying up way too late talking about God knows what. And I have to thank my first-year roommate and best friend, Moana Franco, for dealing with my 3 a.m. mind. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot, y'all. But it might be that time that you cry in your professor's office hours, also apologies for that, or sitting alone in the dining hall. You know that the world isn't crashing in on you because you messed up once, twice, or maybe a lot of times, said something that made your heart race, or you tried something new. It's acknowledging that it happens, and not just holding the prim and proper close to you, because that's the whole point of being human. It's to acknowledge it all. In all of this, to me, the core of belonging is being brave enough to be yourself, and being willing to embrace others as they are. Friends, these 4 years will grant you an experience of a lifetime, but it's up to you to open those doors. It's up to you to walk into those office hours, to say hi to a new face in your hall, to go to your crew meetings, to listen to yourself when you need to work harder or go slower. Families, loved ones, and friends in the crowd, you will watch these amazing folks grow, and in that they will change. You'll see them become a version of themselves that they want to become. To witness this change in someone you might know for so long seems exciting, but maybe it's even a little scary. And I want to reassure you that the people I've worked with in my tenure here are those I've called for guidance time and time again. And as a past resident myself, and a past first year myself, this FNMLE is a backbone for lively blooming. Change does not occur in comfort, but in a balance of vulnerability and bravery, an adventure that FNM prepares for us to seek. At FNM, we bring all of ourselves. I brought my identities, my cultures, my experiences, and my perspectives, and all of you bring those gifts too. But in my short time with you now, I call you to remember at least this, that you, yes you, all of you, sitting in those seats that I sadly cannot make eye contact with right now, we're just too far, that you deserve to be here and to be you, to have fun and to simply be human and to be respected because of that. And not to spoil the ending, but FNM will provide you with this and so much more. This is an FNMLE after all. We'll be here no matter your successes and failures, because it's you and all of you that make this an amazing place that we can call home. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Ooh. Oh my gosh. Thanks, y'all. Okay. Thank you. And now I have the distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the amazing, magnificent, never seen before, President Barbara K. Altman. Are you ready? Yes, yes. We got this. Are you ready? Yes, this side. We got this.
Well, that is a hard act to follow. First of all, let's just have everybody give voice. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Excellent, thank you. Okay, Michael, I cannot wait for what this next year is going to bring. We're going to have a blast working together. We presidents need to talk frequently, and we do. Class of 2028, transfer students, welcome. Faculty, staff, returning students, welcome back. A very good afternoon to everyone watching on the live stream with us today, and a very special and warm welcome to all the families in the hall. And it is warm, isn't it? We are so happy to have you with us for this threshold moment in your students' lives. As many of you know, being scholars in your own right, the word convocation comes from the Latin verb convocare, meaning to call together, and having you with us as a whole class today is a ceremonial moment. Having our families with us signals just how much we value you as part of that community too. So family members, it's your moment. May I ask all family members to rise if you are able, please. Please stand up if you can. Okay. Now, students, this is your chance to recognize your families publicly. Let's all recognize them with a huge round of applause, please. Thank you, families. You may be seated. I'll need you again later. Parents, siblings, loving relatives, friends, young and impatient and hot and crabby, you are taking a leap of faith, and we are most grateful that you see F&M as the place where your children can thrive and grow. We promise to help them find their way. And please know that the next time you see them, they will already have started on that journey, and they will have changed. Let's talk about those changes. Let's imagine the array of emotions involved in the transition to a new school, a new location, a new and more demanding level of education, perhaps a new culture and a completely new set of traditions. As it happens, the biggest hit movie of this year is about exactly that kind of change. Who has heard about the animated film from Pixar Studios titled Inside Out? Raise your hands. Okay, that's okay. I'm glad I have a summary for the rest of you. Okay, all right. So the first Inside Out, released in 2015, is about a girl named Riley and the emotions that Riley experiences when she and her family move away from her childhood home. The movie is an allegory. The literary scholar in me can't resist pointing that out. Along with the child Riley, the other characters are personifications of emotion. Riley is driven by and defined by joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear. The sequel, playing at a cinema near you, Inside Out 2, picks up the story a few years later when these emotions get a little more complicated. Riley, now 13, is about to start high school. A talented ice hockey player, she and her friends are invited to join older players in a skills camp. So just as Riley is thrust into a new social environment and a more competitive hockey team with older students, Riley's sense of self is knocked askew by puberty, and she is suddenly plagued by the frenetic, twitchy, annoying anxiety. Anxiety and his sidekicks, envy, embarrassment, and ennui, an emotion which none of the other characters can pronounce, run roughshod over poor Riley. She is pulled between old friendships and the promise of new ones. She doubts herself. She's full of contradictions. She loses her sense of self, and she literally stuffs joy into a bottle. She finds herself in the grip of an anxiety attack when she sits in the penalty box at the hockey rink. In the end, however, anxiety does not get to define Riley. Riley grounds herself in the sounds, the sights, and the physical reality of the game she loves. Joy prevails and helps Riley manifest her new and evolved sense of self. It is a movie worth seeing, and I understand that many psychologists are using it as a way to talk through hard emotions with young people. Now, You, dear students, are far beyond the 13-year-old Riley. You are way past puberty, you have very successfully survived your high school years, and you are arriving at this new school as sophisticated thinkers and young adults. But there is a parallel. Like Riley, you will be discovering your own evolving sense of self starting now, experiencing emotions and attitudes that will both delight and trouble you. Think of what you've heard this afternoon. Professor Smith asked you to build your education brick by brick and above all with joy. Vice President Stelgis urged you to welcome vulnerability and openness. Vice President Davidson said that in your applications and interviews, we discovered that you are kind, that your instinct is to include, to make room at the table, to hear and to learn from other voices, that you have gone out of your way already to ensure that others are and feel safe. Which leads me to my last point. Right now, in this country, we are living in a difficult and divisive moment. Globally, there are horrors unfolding every day. Here at F&M, in this community, you, like the rest of us, will need to allow for difference of opinion. As Vice President Davidson said, you are, quote, wildly diverse in terms of identity, worldview, life experience, and interests. And yet, you are all diplomats and you all belong here. So what is it going to take for each one of you to feel like you belong? What is it going to take for your hallmates and your classmates to feel like they belong? The obligation of colleges like us, our obligation here at F&M, is to create a holding environment for the full variety of ideas and opinions, with ways of working that allow us all to express ourselves without shutting others down, without threatening anyone's safety, and without interrupting the daily routines of providing an education for all students. That is not an easy task, but it's central to our mission. As one of our trustees likes to say, we are a plurality in the sense, as defined by Cambridge Dictionary, of a large number of different types of things. And we need to make room for all those points of view, however objectionable we might find them. One of our amazing seniors conducted a survey of a random sample of F&M students last spring about their voting habits and attitudes. Nearly half of those students said that they heard different political viewpoints on campus very often or often. And another 40% said that they heard them at least sometimes. That's 88% right there. That probably runs counter to what some people think about liberal arts colleges. I urge you to express yourselves and also to allow others to express themselves. I urge you to do a lot of listening. If you disagree with an idea, probe it with intellectual curiosity. Ask good questions and think through the issues for yourself. We can and will respect and make room for one another across difference. You can and will connect through difference. This is a great place to practice that skill, and that skill will serve you exceedingly well in the larger world beyond our gates. As Michael Vasquez said so poignantly, and our students always learn to do it better than we do, quote, this F&Emily is the backbone of lively blooming. Change does not occur in comfort, but it does occur in safety. A balance F&M prepares for us to seek. Thank you, Michael. So students, think about that approach as you jump into your orientation program right after the ceremony, right after Convocation. What are you yourself experiencing here in your first few days that make you feel like you belong? And, other half of this equation, how have you helped someone else feel like they belong? That's how a powerful community gets built, and we can all get started on it right now. So, first homework assignment. I invite all the first years and the transfer students to send me an email about your experience. It can be 2 sentences long. I'm not hard to find. You can send the email to president@fnm.edu. I would love to hear from you, and I will answer every email I get. I want to hear how you're finding your place, finding your rhythm, and beginning to see the world through diplomat eyes. Families, HAs, dons, dean, faculty, please encourage our students to send me that message. Now, looking ahead, as you've heard, next Tuesday, when orientation draws to a close, you will participate in the tradition of the Lux et Lex walk. You will step through the Lux et Lex archway, named for its inscription of the Latin words light and law, as a symbol of your official entrance into the FNM community. You will take this walk again when you are seniors going the other direction, just before graduation. My guess is graduation feels like a long time away right now, but I assure you it will be here before you know it. The good news is you're a student for 4 years, but you're an FNM community member for life. Allow me now to introduce the community you are joining, and some of these constituencies have already risen, but we're going to do it again. A few minutes ago, I asked friends and families of our new students to rise. Now, before we close, may I ask, as you are able, will all returning students and graduates please rise? Where are you in the hall? Stand, returning students and graduates. I know there are a few of you. Okay, you can, yes, all right, thank you. Just to let you know, there are 1,400 FNM, stay standing please, 1,400 graduates working right here in Lancaster. I was at a board meeting this morning with 4 of them, and one of them was chair of the board. So yes, we keep our people close. It's a great place to work. Okay, now, may I ask faculty once again to rise? And will all professional staff and administrators of the college please rise? So students, have a look around. Have a look up here, look in front of you, look to the sides, look behind you. This is also your family, your FNM family, your FNMily. You are literally surrounded by people ready and eager to help you become your best self. Dear transfer students and class of 28, you are off to a terrific start. We will be walking right by your side, and we can't wait to see how you teach and change us as we teach and change you, and together we are diplomats forever. Now, we will all stand, please, for the singing of the FNM alma mater. May I welcome Eve Schaefer, please, class of 25, and the Convocation Brass conducted by Mackenzie Golden, also class of 25. I will admit that that brought a tear to my eye. Bravo, Eve, and thank you so much, Mackenzie. That was really beautifully done. You may all sit now, thank you, and we're almost finished. Before our ceremony draws to a close, I'd like to recognize Brian Norcross, Senior Director of Instrumental Music and Conducting Studies, and the Convocation Brass for today's performances. Thank you so much indeed. You set an unmistakable and wonderful tone for ceremonies. Many thanks, Brian, and musicians. And I want to flag for you that a number of the compositions that were played today by the Convocation Brass were composed by Professor Norcross for this occasion. So thank you again, Brian. Okay, here's what's going to happen next. The moment is coming, the moment for farewell. So, families, guests, you will just stay seated until everybody has processed out, please. That'll be easier. That way you'll be able to find your student much more easily. So, administrators and faculty will recess first. We're going to come off the stage. Faculty, you will follow us. We'll process down the middle aisle. And then new students, you're staying seated until you're dismissed row by row, and then you'll follow us out. You can gather in the designated areas by your college flags, and that will be where your families can find you. The recessional will finish when College Marshal Professor David Brennan passes through the center aisle behind the last student. Then you will hear the magical sound of the old Maine bells tolling, and that will mark the conclusion of our ceremony, and it will signal that it is time to say your farewells. Families and guests, that is your moment to join your students to exchange a hug, some parting words, maybe that picnic basket of food you brought in the car. We know that you will appreciate and cherish these moments before your students depart for their orientation activities, which start at 5 p.m. Remember, dear families, this is not goodbye, it is a farewell. Platform party, here we go. Please stand and join me as we begin our Convocation recessional.